Welcome to our Discovery Lab online videos. My name is Bethany Cheshire and I work with the Outreach Division here at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. And today we're going to learn a little bit about Native Alaskan wear. Let's get started. So Native Alaskan clothing does two very important things for their tribe. First, it protects them from the frigid, freezing environment of Arctic Alaska. Their clothing is built with two layers of material. The first is the inner, and it's toward the body, it's the inner layer, and the outer layer is exposed to the outside, so it's usually a thicker layer. And these two layers help to trap warm air between them, and it allows for insulation, for them to stay warm for hours and hours on end. Their clothing is very versatile and allows them a lot of mobility. So their clothing they're able to use it for long hunting trips that would take them hours on end, long fishing trips, anything that they would have to be outside for a very long time. Also, traditional clothing is very important in signifying roles in their culture, their values, and even keeping knowledge alive. A lot of these traditions in making and what they would wear these different kinds of clothing for is passed down from generation to generation. And so they're very important in keeping and expressing and sustaining identity of Native cultures. So let's look at a few things that are in our collection. So one thing that Native Alaskans might be wearing are mittens. These are bearskin mittens, circa the 1900s, and these are adult-sized mittens. So these would be what adults would wear. And these were purchased by the museum, but they would make mittens over gloves because mittens are warmer. They have your fingers together, like so, with just the thumb. You kind of see it in the hand here. Your hand would go here, and your thumb would go right here. Your fingers are together, so they have your natural body heat, and then it's entrapped between each other, and they're touching. So they actually produce more heat and warmth, and that would help them survive the long, harsh Arctic nights. Gloves actually they provide dexterity because they allow your fingers to be separated and usable. So you would use them more for think of like winter sports or things that maybe you want to pick up something, but mittens would provide more warmth. So that's something that they would use more often and would be more useful for them. So these are mukluks. They're a kind of shoe, and these were created circa 1930s. These are handmade by Edna A. Agashak. She was an Alaskan Native woman, and they're made with reindeer skin here on the sides. And then the soles are seal skin. And these were meant to be worn indoors. So these ones are typically worn by women. But these ones are indoor mukluks, and they have many different uses. So traditionally, they're obviously worn in the Arctic region or in the Arctic region, and they have a versatile design. Like I said, these ones are indoors, but they have a lot of different uses. They were used for different seasons, and then they were used for outdoors as well. So it just depended on the kind of mukluks that were made. They have different ceremonial significance and essential practical purposes as well. One of the really cool essential purposes the reason that they would wear a mukluk is that it allowed for airflow, so it would prevent perspiration on the feet that would cause frostbite. So it actually has a very interesting. It was very interesting. They made it this way specifically to negate frostbite. And they were also worn to sneak up on prey. So they would wear them while hunting, so they could sneak up on seals or deer or caribou or whatever they were hunting at the time. But they were also traditionally worn for dances and for other formal occasions like weddings and graduations. Mukluks were traditionally sewn by hand, but that has lessened in recent years because the process is so tedious and it takes a long time and is a lot of work. So first, they would hunt and harvest sealskin hide, and they would clean it, and then they'd stretch it out and let it dry out in the sun to make the sole of the mukluk here. Then they would have to hunt and harvest the fur of the caribou or the moose or whatever they were using for the sides. So we have the sides here of the fur. This one, like I said, is reindeer. It's actually reindeer. And they would have to harvest and hunt and go through the process of cleaning that one too for the sides and the top of the shoe. Um, and this is commonly, these traditions were commonly taught by moms and then taught to their daughters, and it would be handed down generation to generation. Like I said, it's not as common in the recent years because of the tedious process, and you can buy a lot of these now, or kinds similar to them. A lot of it is like commercial, so they actually can buy them easier than they can make them. So there are two kinds of coats that Native Alaskans would wear. The first is an anorak. It's waterproof and hooded, but it's more of a pullover without a front opening. And sometimes there'd be drawstrings at the wrists and at the waist. What we have here is a parka. A parka is hip length, has a hood with fur around it, and is stuffed with some kind of down. The Caribou Inuits invented this kind of garment, and it was originally made out of caribou or seal, and had a different variety of other materials that went into making it, such as reindeer, squirrel, muskrat, birds, and even sometimes fish. This parka is circa 1950 and was donated by Mrs. J.B. Stiff, whose husband brought it back for her from a construction job when he was at the on an Alaskan island. And there's some really cool things about it. You see here, we have some applique here of these pretty colored flowers here on the leather. And so it's got some symbols on it. Let's pull it up a little bit so we can take a better look at it. So this is a parka, and we know that because it has an opening, like we said, right here down the middle. Its hood is lined with wolverine fur, and it's stuffed with more of a cotton material. It has a lining of cotton. It also has parts of it that are reindeer fur, but the majority of it is actually made from sealskin. Thank you so much for joining us today and learning about Native Alaskan clothing. We hope to see you soon at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History.